What up, what up? How's it going, my people? Sports fans, Cowboys fans, other bitches who love sports. How's it going? So first things first, this is not live. This is a YouTube premiere. So I might be in the chat with y'all, but I won't be answering questions on the screen like I often do. It's still going to be a good episode though. We're going to start off with a little bit of TLDR. Then we're going to hop into a conversation with one Mr. Terrence Parsons. Yes, brother to Micah Parsons. Last week, we went live together, had a great conversation, and I told y'all that after that, we were going to have a separate conversation off the air. So that conversation happened. It was a dope conversation. It was a fun conversation, but it was also a conversation that got a little bit deeper than I expected. So we're going to go ahead and share that with y'all today. But yeah, let's hop into it. Without further ado, I'm your host, Jazz Monet, and this is an episode of Bitches Love Sports.
Queen bitch, supreme bitch, I'ma stay that bitch.
So for today's TLDR, we actually have a couple of topics. First things first, let's hop into this topic of the Cowboys and the Patriots and the trade that they made this morning. So apparently the Patriots traded quarterback Joe Milton III to the Cowboys for a compensatory 5th round pick and a 7th round pick. So outside of that, I don't really have a lot to say about the trade. I don't have a lot to say about Joe Milton. I know he was picked in the 6th round last year, and he played one game for the Patriots last year, a game that they won against the Bills. So awesome. That's dope. During the game, he completed 22 of 29 of his passes for 249 yards. No, 241, my bad. So yeah, he sounds solid, especially as a backup. The Cowboys needed a backup. They had space in their room since Cooper Rush signed with the Baltimore Ravens last month. So that's who they got. And unless something else comes out, I don't really have any strong opinions on it, honestly. So if anything else does come up, I'll tell y'all when I go live. But, you know, that's pretty much just an update. Now, the other part of TLDR actually has something to do with a topic that's been on a lot of people's minds for a couple years now, honestly. And it's the possibility of the NFL adding this 18th game to their regular season. So for the longest time, I've said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so now we have new information that might actually point to when, might give us a little bit of a timeline for when this could happen. So at the owners' meetings that wrapped up on Tuesday, as the media always does, they got a quote from Jerry Jones, and he said regarding the possible addition to the 18th game, he said, "Certainly it's in the future. I know the potential, but there are several things that I can see in the future that are potential." Cool. I also know that things can take time. If anybody knows anything about things taking time, it's definitely Jerry Jones. So I don't doubt that at all. But based on that quote from him, based on what we heard from Roger Goodell, it definitely sounds like the NFL is trying to take that time in the future and pull it to being sooner rather than later. So there are a few things that are going to go along with that. So one is the concerns about player health and safety. That has been a part of this conversation since the beginning. And we're talking not only about physical health, but also about mental health. Because yes, there's that increased chance of injury if you add a game to the season, right? But also if you're lengthening the season, because they're talking about adding a bye week, what we're looking at is a situation that could also be more mentally and emotionally taxing on players and their families. And that's something that has to be considered too. You know, we can't just worry about their physical health and just not consider how this might impact them mentally and emotionally. So that's one thing that they're going to discuss, and they're probably going to discuss it as they discuss what's number 2 on this list, which is the CBA. So right now there's labor peace between the players and the owners. There's no big issues that are causing conflict between them. And the current CBA is set to stay in place until 2030. But because there's labor peace right now, there's room for them to all decide to come to the table and put something in place that could take effect as early as 2027. Meaning, if the NFL plays this right, they could add that 18th game as early as 2027. So no, it's not going to be, well, we know it's not going to be 2025. It's not going to be 2026. Looks like 2027 is the earliest that this could happen. Now, when it comes to CBA negotiations and their fairness, y'all know I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on that. But since this is TLDR, I'm going to put a pin in that, and we'll save that conversation until we hear about any actual plans to put a new CBA in place. But here's a few more details according to sources. Apparently, if this 18th game is added, The NFL will go. The NFL will go from what's currently 8 international games to a total of 16, and the preseason would drop from 3 games down to 2. So if that turns out to be the case and there are 16 international games, we could be looking at a situation where every single team has an international game. Either that, or there are going to be some teams that have multiple international games during the course of one season, which is something that we've actually already seen happen. Either way, they would have to make considerations for scheduling and put in place things to account for stuff like jet lag and just general recovery from travel, in addition to recovery from playing the actual game. So there's a lot to think about there. I also imagine that this could come along with things like increases in the size of the practice squad, or increases in the size of a team's roster or their active game day roster. Because once you start putting into place things that lengthen the season, because they talked about also adding another bye week, but that would mean lengthening the season. In other words, lengthening the amount of time that these players have to dedicate their lives to their role within the NFL. We're talking about increasing the length of the season, increasing travel, increasing the odds of injury, and increasing the amount of recovery time needed, and maybe also needing more player rotations in each game. And that's something else that we're already starting to see, even among the highest level skill players in the NFL. So this is all pointing to some pretty major moves for the NFL. Not only this, but also some of the things going on with their media rights deals. So this could happen in 2027, the 18th game. But they could also opt out of their current media rights deals as early as 2029. So what we're seeing with the NFL right now is an increase in inventory in terms of the content that they're able to put out. Because not only are they adding more games, right, but they're also adding things like this game show that they're putting on YouTube, NFL Offsides, and they're experimenting with the audience that could bring in and trying to capture younger generations. And then we've got this triple header that they're doing on Netflix and Amazon on Christmas. So we're seeing an NFL that's increasing its content inventory and is also experimenting with digital platforms, streaming platforms, and they just seem to be doing everything that they can to maximize what they have to offer and capture the eyes of fans year round. So that, along with the possibility of a new CBA, could mean some really big changes for the NFL. And once again, that means these players are going to have to be really careful in how they negotiate this next CBA and what it means for them and what they're going to get. But I'm going to stop myself right there because y'all know I will get on a soapbox about this. And we'll save that conversation for next time I go live, when we actually have time to talk about what it could mean and the implications, etc., etc. For now, let's go ahead and get into part 1 of this conversation with Terrence Parsons. Basically, the day that we filmed this, we had limited time available. And as we started to get into the conversation, we realized that it might be a good idea for us to reconvene and actually give this conversation the amount of time and attention it deserves. So by the time y'all get to the end of it, you'll kind of see why we decided to do that. So this is part 1. Feel free to answer your questions, but just know that there's a part 2 on the way. We are here with Mr. Terrence Parsons. If you watched the live that was aired last week, you kind of have an idea of some of the things we discussed in relation to the Cowboys. But now we're going to talk to Terrence Parsons, the man. So you said that you wanted to be a good dad. That's what you want to be known for. Kind of talk about what your life has been like as a dad while also managing the podcast and everything else that goes along with your life here.
Just a bunch of things going on. Well, right now, me with my youngest, I got 7 months and 4 years old. Yeah, we just be thugging every day. Just taking care of them, making sure they got everything they need. And then I do streaming. I stream Xbox, do the podcast, and yeah, just watch my kids. Like that's really what I be focused on. I be trying to work for PFF.
What do you want to do for them?
Just analytics. Stay at home. Have me with my kids. Being an active dad. That's what I want to do. Like that was my goal, to try to find like something that I could do to where I could be with them all the time and make sure that like I'm at all the events. I don't have to miss anything.
Dope. So analytics, like diving into some of the in-depth topics of sports, really seems to be your thing. So if you were to go into analytics, for example, would you want to stay there, or are you one of those people who wants to have your hand in multiple things?
Definitely have my hand in multiple things. And who knows, I might not even stay there. But definitely for the right now, for what I need to take care of my kids is definitely what a nice opportunity for me.
Have you talked to anybody at PFF yet?
Yeah, Ben. You know Ben.
Yeah, I know Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Ben plugged me in. That's my guy for real.
Okay. Well, I definitely hope that works out for you. Yeah. No, Ben is dope. I'm sure like if there's an opportunity available, like he'll follow up with you on it. So sure. I look forward to meeting Terrence Parsons, the PFF analyst. That'll be dope.
Yeah, I can't wait for that actually. Never thought I'd be doing something like that, but when he was talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, bro, I could definitely do that.
So what were you doing before being an analyst was on the table, before you kind of became known for being this voice in the media? Like was there a point in time where you had a quote unquote regular job?
Yeah, I cooked. I like being a cook. Definitely one of the passions I got from my mom. All my siblings cook. Like my brother, he's a pretty good cook too.
Micah?
We were talking about going to culinary school.
Wait, Micah can cook?
Yeah. Like it's something we kind of got from my mom. Growing up, everybody used to always want to come to our house for my mom's food. Like,
what's your favorite thing to cook?
Mine?
Yeah.
Me personally, I like Italian, so like ziti, chicken parm, goulash, things like that. Like definitely heavy on the pasta, big pasta guy. I think my brother likes his Alfredos.
Okay.
Like homemade type.
That's a common favorite, but like when you can get it right, like it goes like a step above. Because like you have like the basic Alfredo that you get from like a regular restaurant, like a Fazoli's or whatever. No, but like when it's cooked right, yes. Okay. I might have to like find a way to scheme my way into some of y'all's cooking one of these days.
You gotta pop up like Thanksgiving or Christmas for sure.
Okay, I'll be around. We'll talk about it. So what was it that like brought you from being a cook to, I'm not even sure what you do right now, honestly. So you're kind of like a multifaceted entrepreneur, kind of like me, like Law. Okay, I know what that lifestyle is like.
Yeah, bro. Because like I don't like daycare, germs, things like that. But I know it's good for the kids, so like I've been to Avila, put them in. But my son's about to start school. My youngest, he's just too young for daycare, and I like growing that bond with him.
So you like doing things where you can stay with the kids, but also get your work done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like that was just perfect. It was definitely just perfect. Cooking was good. I like cooking, but it's just long hours. Long hours.
I was a cook at one point too. I know.
Long hours, and then they want you to work all days of the week for real.
Yes.
So it's just a grind. But I liked it. Like, you know what I mean? The restaurant business, I do want to have a food truck one day. If all things go right, I think we will.
Like you being in the food truck, or do you just want to come up with the concept and have people who work for you?
Both. Like I'm going to definitely start out in the food truck for sure. And then, you know what I mean, when I can get it off the ground, I'm definitely going to keep it like kind of like a family thing, you know what I mean? Definitely branch out, but like, keep it in the family because, you know what I mean? That's always good, Something like, my kids can use to make money, you know what I mean? Where they have their free time and things like that, you know what I mean? It's definitely something that like teaches you like responsibility and things like that at a young age.
True. Now, speaking of things you learn at a young age, you told me that your life is pretty much like a movie.
No.
So let's say your life was a movie. What would be in the trailer of that movie?
A lot of hardships, for real.
A lot of hardships.
Yeah, go through things, you know what I mean? Like, I understand why, you know what I mean, life can't be all sunshine. I mean, you definitely got to go through things and make you the people that you are. And, change your view on a lot of things. I want to say, like, growing up, I was probably like, I went through hard times, but like I was kind of like sheltered at the same time. My mom and my dad tried to like really like keep us away from certain things and make sure that like we kind of like stayed out of certain trouble and things like that. So like I was fortunate to have good parents like that.
That's good.
And you know what I mean, just growing up, you kind of see like how fortunate you really are and like how people don't have it like that, and you kind of like start to see like certain things like parenting is like a really big thing, like shape society for real. I feel like that's a lot of what's wrong with society, like parents. Like a lot of kids don't have parents, and that's why you see things going on today with violence and things like that. 'Cause, you know, when you come from love, bro, you're not doing that, man.
Did you ever get into any trouble as a kid?
For sure.
Like serious trouble? Like
Yeah.
things on your permanent record trouble?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What happened?
A bunch of different things, really. Just like I feel like my whole life would be if I knew better, I would have did better. And I feel like as I got older, I like learned a lot of things.
Relatable.
But yeah, just young, having kids young, not really wanting to work. I was an athlete for real, so like never had to work for real. I was always active doing something. It was just like one of those things where it was like put myself in like a athlete or nothing situation type of situation. And then like school, I didn't really apply myself. I started doing things, got too big headed. But streets, parties, drugs, things like that.
Is that what you got in trouble for? Drugs?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I had a kid like fresh out of high school. Went to college for a little bit. That didn't really work out. So then I was like, gotta have a kid. Started selling drugs a little bit. And that was fun for a little bit. I got big headed though. Started moving crazy, and you know, life humble you. And definitely humbled me. Being a man of God, like growing up in the church and things like that, like that just was just never me for real. And it just, I feel like God knows how to humble you for real.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you started moving crazy, are we talking about something besides marijuana, or are we just talking about like large quantities?
Just large quantities, like, you know what I mean, making a lot of money, you know what I mean? I framed it as like, you know what I mean, at first it was just for my kid, you know what I mean, just to make sure, you know what I mean, she didn't need or want for anything. And I mean, when you start making a lot of money, it kind of like gives you kind of like, you know what I mean, like a little bit of power, like
it goes to your head a little bit.
Yeah, and then you know what I mean, you start,
and then it backfired.
For sure. And then like now you gotta deal with real consequences. And my mom always told me, man, like, and it's just like,
did your mom know what you were doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she never approved, like,
of course not.
I mean, never approved. And my dad knew, and he never really approved either. But like, you know, I mean, they understood at the end of the day, like, I gotta make my own decisions. And you know, what I mean, it caused a rift for my family a little bit for real for the longest, because you know, what I mean, like they're not condoning that. Like, obviously, they still love me. Obviously, I was still around and things like that. But like, my brother was mad at me for the longest because like he used to look up to me for real, and like
I disappointed him.
Yeah, it hurt him a lot, and I don't get to talk about I don't get to talk about that a lot, but like, yeah, like I didn't really know the validity until like my parents told me, my family told me, when I was in jail the last time. And what I want to say, I missed my brother's fucking whole rookie season.
Wow.
Second season too for what?
So you were in jail the whole time?
Yeah. So and I think he gave like a speech. I forget, he gave like a speech, and he was just talking about it and things like that. That kind of like hurt me a lot because like obviously I knew he looked up to me, but like I didn't know like the validity of like why he was doing certain things that he was doing. And
how long?
It made me happy though, because like he learned a lot from me and my sister, like a lot. I mean, he kind of like he saw how me and my sister went, and he chose the middle. So I learned from all of us.
What did he learn from your sister?
My sister, she was great at basketball. Could have went D1 and things like that, but like same thing with me a little bit, you know, got to her head, you know, partying, drugs a little bit. But like she just didn't have the grades to go D1. She went D2, won the national championship. She played football. I mean, she played basketball overseas, played basketball in Mexico a little bit. And yeah, he kind of like she couldn't like really live the dream that she really wanted to live. And yeah, he made sure like, hey, you make sure I'm right in school. You know what I mean? Make sure I can really live my dream. And like I say, tell people all the time, like Michael's really lucky, like getting that scholarship like fresh out of freshman year. You know what I mean? Because when you from the city that we from, you know what I mean, that don't really happen a lot for real. Like you got your great athletes that like never make it out. A lot of them, I can't even tell you how many just never made it out. Some of them made it to college and then they never made it out of college. So it's just like, you know what I mean? Like you always have that dream, but it's always a dream, you know what I mean? It's never like right there. And I think like Micah from a young age just always had it like right there.
So do you think that was always in him from a young age? Or do you think him seeing what happened with you is what drove him to be so competitive and have such high standards for everything he does?
Both? Yeah, it was in him. It was in him. Like I said, that was the only person like I ever seen like no matter what he did, he was good at it.
How long did it take y'all to repair y'all's relationship?
Probably while I was in jail, talking back and forth on the tablet and things like that. Just for like really having like real life conversations, things like that. Like not like he a grown man, I'm a grown man. Like we could really talk like grown men. Like yeah, definitely that. And just really like locked in there and stuff, bro.
Do you think everything happens for a reason?
For sure. I knew, and like I said, I've always been fortunate. Like even like when we were going through hard times, like still more fortunate than others. I think that yeah, everything happens for a reason. I think everything was written because I think I got a story that like really can help a lot of people. You know what I mean? Especially like that grew up like me and like in my predicaments and things like that. I feel like the advice that I can give people that like really try to help them change their life that I wish that I listened to when I was younger. For real.
Well, I do appreciate you sharing that with us. And I look forward to us being able to follow up one of these days and learn a little bit more about that. And also, when we do follow up, talk about what your career as a PFF analyst is like. So is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up?
No, not off the top of my head. No.
All right.
I answer all questions.
Well, thank you for helping us learn who Terrence Parsons is outside of being Micah Parsons' brother. So like I said, that was part one. And when we do part two, I definitely want to give Terrence Parsons all the time that he needs to finish telling his story and talk about the impact of his actions on his family and what he's learned from that. But all this brings me to an important point that I want to share in a segment that I think I'm going to call Game Notes. So what are game notes? Game notes are pieces of information that are essential to understanding the game that is being played. And in this situation, the note that I want y'all to walk away with is the fact that everybody has a story. And we might not all have as big of platforms as some of the people that we follow, and we might not even all be called to share our stories publicly, but we all have a story, and it's important to know those stories because what your story is points to what your purpose is. Your story helps you identify patterns in things that you learn, patterns in ways that you might help people, and the ways that you might impact people, patterns in the way that you make a difference, whatever. So I really just want y'all to ask yourselves, if you had a few minutes to tell your story, how would that story go? What would the title be? What chapter would you be in right now? Are you the main character in your own story, or have you been given a lot of side character energy? And how do you want that story to end? If you don't already know the answers to these questions, I promise you that understanding the answers will make a huge difference in how you approach your everyday life and what you decide to prioritize. So that wraps up today's episode. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and please share this episode with another dope person who you think would like it. And of course, turn your notifications on so you don't miss my next video or the part 2 with Terrence Parsons. So that's all, y'all. This has been another episode of Bitches Love Sports. I'm your host, Jazz Monet, and I'm out.
You only think of us as a bitches when you intimidated. Put it
Exactly.
that way. I think
People
that's
look at a woman and she's an
so
aggressive
sad.
woman who's out to get what she wants to get, you know what I'm saying, ambitious, and they want to say, you know, when a male is assertive, this is what he wants, he's looked at as a strong male, but yet when I get it, you know, I'm a bitch.
Exactly.
And if that's what I gotta be
Exactly.
to get what I want and to make it somewhere, then I'll just be